What's up, guys? Doing something I've never done here before on the channel. I've got a lot of questions regarding what are the differences in the Beta 300 that you see behind me and the KTM 300. First things first, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, or should I call it the 2x4 in the room, the seat on the Beta. My goodness, Beta, it is atrocious. What are you doing? KTM factory seats, not too terribly bad. KTM Power Parts seat is pretty good. Nothing beats a seat concept seat. Listen, I know you're not supposed to be sitting down for most of the ride anyway, but I'm a big guy, 6'4", 250 pounds. My fat butt's sitting on that seat while I'm in the woods, and the Beta seat is absolutely terrible. If I was a new buyer going to the dealership, sitting on each bike, trying to figure out which enduro bike I'm gonna buy, these are $10,000 to $12,000 bikes. If I'm sitting on all the bikes, figuring out which one's gonna fit me best, the Beta is definitely not going to be the one I go with, just out of sheer discomfort sitting on it in the showroom floor. This bike will definitely have a seat concepts comfy seat on it before I ride it again. To start off, let's talk about some of the differences in these bikes. KTM, of course, WP air fork. The sack suspension on the Beta is a spring fork. When I first got the Beta, the forks were really stiff. Didn't like them at all, felt like a motocross bike. We made some adjustments to them, tuned with it a few different times, and got it to where it's super plush, very comfy. I was never really comfortable with the KTM air fork. Nothing against the air fork. I certainly don't think WP is inferior to Sachs. Obviously WP is a huge company, KTM's a huge company, they make great products, but the air fork is just never been something I was able to get comfortable with. Might have something to do why KTM on the newer models has gone back to the spring fork. So I got to give the nod to the Beta for suspension, even though this is the Sachs suspension and not the KYB suspension that comes on the race edition. I'm still liking the suspension a little bit better on this Beta. Let's talk about the motors in these bikes. The Beta has tons of bottom end torque, very snappy. What I've noticed riding the Beta, put about 30 miles, 10 hours or so on the bike so far, had 130 hours on the KTM. I've noticed that the Beta is really grunty down low, but it signs off pretty quickly at the top end. The power curve is not as linear as what you're gonna find on the KTM. KTM, super smooth power, pulls and never stops pulling. That's a big deal when you have these real long hill climbs. The KTM just seems to continue pulling, where the Beta, you get to a point where it signs off a little early. You got to grab a gear, get it back down in the RPMs, down to that grunt, and it'll keep on going for you. That's really not a big deal to me. It's more so just adjusting your riding style. One thing I'll point out is the KTM has a FMF fatty pipe, which is more of an all-around pipe, where the Beta has the FMF gnarly pipe. The gnarly pipe is more of a bottom end torquey pipe. May have something to do with the Beta signing off a little earlier than the KTM does. The power curve is not quite as linear as the KTM. Like I mentioned, signs off a little early, so it's very possible that the expansion chamber is part of that. All right, let's talk about the carburetor on the Beta. Beta runs really good, no issues there, but one thing I have noticed with it being carbureted and the riding conditions that I ride in, and me being not a very good rider, the bike's on the ground a lot. With the carburetor, you got to worry about fuel leaking out of it. TPI bike, you throw it on the ground, not a big deal. Today I was in a position where I was trying to work my way up a hill. You're dog tired, your tongue's hanging out, you launch the bike up a little bit further, trying to get over a rock or a root system, and when the bike tips over, it starts leaking gas all over the place. You gotta be aware of that. You gotta reach up and shut the fuel petcock off, or get up there and pick the bike back up. With the TPI bike, you never have to worry about that. So that's something worth noting. I've gotten used to the clutch on the Beta. Now I have the arc levers on there, really good levers, super happy with those. I ran just stock levers on my KTM for the entire time I've had it. Never had an issue with them, never felt the need to change, but I really do like the arc levers that I put on the Beta. The clutch is really good. The brakes are not quite as good as what the KTM offers with the Brembo brakes, but they are definitely usable. I don't see any reason for a change there. Once you get used to them, they're just fine. Here's a big nod to the Beta. It's easy to work on. You don't have a bunch of wires. It's very simple. It's a carbureted bike. 3 bolts take the tank off. You don't need any tools at all to take the seat off. KTM was a pain in the butt. 6 bolts to remove the seat and gas tank. Then you got all the wires for the fuel injection and the fuel pump. Just a pain in the butt. As far as having to maintain these things or fix them out on the trail, really giving the nod to the Beta. All right, here's a nod in favor of the KTM. Engine vibration. Both bikes are supposedly counterbalanced engines. However, the KTM is so much smoother. I mean, it is night and day difference. Beta vibrates like crazy. You really feel it when you're idling down the road or a trail. It's not so bad when you're up on it, riding it, sitting still, idling, putt-putting between trail systems. You really feel that vibration. KTM is so much better. They've got that refined. All right, so one last thing I'm gonna leave you with here. TPI bike, had 2 of them. Every TPI bike I've ever been around, talking about the KTM here, has really benefited from the idle screw mod. KTM provides a fixed idle screw in the bikes. It is Loctited in. You got to heat it to get it out. It's a pain in the butt. It is well worth doing that mod. The bike idle better, they start better, they run better. Once you get the idle screw mod done and your air bypass screw set up, the bikes ride and run really well. Another big thing that I didn't realize I needed on the KTM, and I recommend it to anybody who has a TPI bike, the 2-stroke performance injector relocation kit. You don't think you need it until you have it, and they really are a game changer. They make the bike run the way it should have run from the factory. Now going over to the Beta, it's carbureted. I got a JD jet kit in the bike, V-force reads. It just runs really good. I have messed with the idle a little bit. Bike runs really good, idle's good, starts good, doesn't bog, no issues with it at all. So a little bit of tip of the cap to Beta. Engine set up properly right from the get-go. The idle screw mod is fairly inexpensive on the TPI bike, but the 2-stroke performance injector relocation kit is pricey, $600 or so. So you got to factor that in. And again, you don't need it. Once you have it, you realize it's a must-have, game changer. All right, guys, that's all I got for you right now on the Beta versus KTM comparison. Hope that answers some of the questions I've been getting on YouTube and Instagram. I'm gonna send you guys out here with a short video that we filmed today on some East Coast single track. is getting hot. It's getting hot.
You gonna go? Yeah, I'm gonna go. I was gonna back down to right here.
Oh, fuck.
Fucker. Dominoes. Sorry, bro. You're good, you're good.
Yeah, buddy.
Stop from sliding. The 2 brakes on it. Fuck this fucking hill.
Woo!
Alright.
Oh boy, please don't go any further. You good?
Yeah.
No, give us a second. Got 1 coming back down and 2 up here. Hey, that's not it.
Not it.
That wasn't it.